What's going on, guys? Kindergarten Tactical here. So we're going to go over the e-collar today. All right, so this is the newer e-collar from e-collar Technologies. This is their ME-300. This is their new thinner streamlined collar, which we've been using a lot. Again, the model number is the ME-300. You can see it here. And we've been using this primarily with almost every single dog that comes through our board and train. It does have a higher lower end, so if your dog is a more sensitive on the collar, then this is the collar for you. But most dogs don't need that higher level stim that the ET300 offers. So I would rather opt out for this rather than ET300 because it gives you two features or design features that I like that they included on this model. One being two lights on the exterior, on the top portion of the e-collar, so they shine outwards instead of on the side of the ET300. And then the other thing, it's again thinner. So it's a lower profile on the dog's neck. So this is why we are using this with, I'd say 90% of our clients that come through. All right, so let's get into it. What's in the box? What do you get when you open this and you get it? So when you open the box, you got your collar here, and then you got your remote. The collar, remote, and also your charging cable, and then you have an additional long attachment points for your longer coat dogs. So that is a plus, that they give you an extra set of attachment points. So the dogs that are shepherds or the thicker coat dogs, it gives you a little bit longer extension away from the collar, so you don't have to strap it on as tight. But making sure the collar fits properly where you have consistent contacts is the most important thing when using the e-collar. But we're going to get into that in a little bit. Let's focus on how we're going to set this up, how we're going to turn it on, and how we're going to actually start using it with our pup. All right, so let's get into it. So the first thing I do when I get the collar out of the box is I get my lanyard here and I put it on my remote. That way I have a nice little necklace. So when I'm working my dogs, I can go hands-free. They do offer both through e-collar Technologies. They offer holsters, but third-party holsters is going to be your go-to if you want to be high-speed with more of a Kydex holster setup that you can put on your belt. I actually don't have mine on. It's over there, and I'll show you that in a little bit also. The other thing that you want to do is making sure that your collar is charged. So I always recommend our clients charging their collar fully before using it in training. All right, so how do we turn it on after we've done charged it? Charging is very simple with this unit. All right, they've made it dummy proof. It comes with two points that you plug into your collar and your remote, and you open up it's the rubber grommet that protects it from getting wet or dust in there or fur, and you can see that right there. So you just peel that back, and then you would plug your cable directly into that. All right, so that's how you would plug in your receiver. As far as the remote, again, on the back, you're going to see a little rubber grommet piece. You're going to simply open that grommet up, exposing the charging port, and you're going to insert. All right. You're then going to plug this into the wall. How do you know they're charging? You'll get a red light here and a red light on your actual collar. All right. When it's done charging, they will both be green. Green on the collar and green on the remote. All right, pretty self-explanatory. All right, after the collar is done charging, we are going to turn it on. It is a two-step process to turn this remote on. All right, so you want to turn on the remote first, and then you're going to turn on the receiver. All right, so to turn on the remote, all you're going to do is, this is the front of your remote, and on the back side of your remote, you have two buttons here. One, the larger button, is going to be your on-off button, and then your other button says MC on it, and that's going to change your actual programming of your remote and what mode it's in. They have 3 different modes. They have your MC mode, which is momentary and constant. Then you have your momentary mode, and then you have your constant mode. And we're gonna go over those in a minute. Now, to turn this on, you're gonna hit the L button, the bigger button that says L, and it's labeled right here on the side of you. You kind of get confused. It says on, off, or light. So I'm going to use my trigger finger here, and I'm gonna push it until it reads on. As soon as it hits on, I'm gonna release that button. All right? As you can see, I have mine in C mode, which is your constant mode. All right, so if you're not in constant mode, that's the mode that we do use primarily, and I'm going to give you a couple reasons why. But you can just cycle through by holding the MC button, and you'll hear the audible tone. Again, you're going to hear an audible tone when you cycle through each section. So it's going to go MC, it's going to go momentary, and then it's going to go constant. And just look at your screen, it should say C. And can't get it zoomed in. Anyway, so now that we have our remote on, how do we know it's on? Because if we spin the dial here, it actually lights up. How do we turn the receiver on? The receiver, there's going to be a little red dot. All right, you see the red dot? On your receiver, and then on your remote, there's also another red dot. All right, so all you're going to do is take the red dot from your remote, the red dot on your receiver, and you're going to kiss them together. And when you kiss them together, you're going to see the light go on. All right, do you see the green light go on? Green light go to red. That means it's off. Turn it back on. Goes on. If you accidentally hold it too long, it's going to be into pairing mode, which is going to start flashing. Let me get it in pairing mode here. All right. If it goes into pairing mode, that's now looking for a signal from a remote. You don't need to do anything. Just let it time out. It'll time itself out after about 10 seconds. And to test to see if your collar's on, I always do a good vibrate on the remote here. You have a couple different buttons. All right, you have your 2 buttons on the side that are your S's. Then you have your 1 button on the side, that's a T. Your T is going to be your tone or your vibrate. So when you hit the T button, this should vibrate. That tells me that it's on. All right? All right. So, functioning of your collar itself. Proper placement on the dog's neck and proper tautness, how tight you put it on your dog's neck, is just as important. Most people, when putting on the e-collar, do not put it on tight enough, because when you're putting it on your dog, the dog will scrunch his neck up, and you think it's tight, and then the dog goes back to being relaxed, and now it's not tight enough, where we're not getting consistent connection, all right, connectivity with the 2 contact points that are on your collar. These 2 have to be touching the dog's the dog's skin contact for it to actually work. So if it's not making contact, you're not going to get a stim. All right? When I say stim, whatever you want to say, stim, shock, whatever you want to tell yourself it is, it's stim, shock, whatever you want. Now, excuse me. I always tell people if they're afraid of using this on your dog, the first thing you should do, regardless of whether you're afraid or not, I always make my clients put their 2 little fingers on these contact points, just like this. All right, got my fingers on the contact points. I turn it up to about 5, and then I would hit the black S button on the side here, the black S, and I would stim myself, all right? I'm going to increase by 5 until I can feel it. Most people cannot feel it until about 15 to 20, 25, all right? that shows you that it kind of debunks the theory of how awful most people think these collars are. These collars have gone through tremendous revamping since the old days with collars. There's a lot of technologies built into these. So I always tell people to do it because most levels that you're working with your dog, you can barely feel on your own skin, all right? With that being said, with putting it on the dog's neck, we never put it across the trachea here. I always put it to the left or the right side of the trachea, all right? When you put it on, I like to nestle it down through the dog's fur. They are a longer coat dog. I nestle it down and then I tighten it up. If I'm working with a prong collar, I will tend to put the prong collar above the e-collar and then the e-collar below the prong. All right, so again, if I'm working with a prong, the prong collar sits higher up on the neck and the e-collar goes below it. You're going to have to adjust the tightness of your collar as you see that you are not getting a response out of your dog. So if you find that you think your dog is not listening to you and being disobedient, the first thing we want to check is the collar on? I'll reach down, I grab the collar and I'll vibrate. Does it vibrate? Yes or no? Yes, it does vibrate. Check in the box. Okay. What if it does not vibrate? Then we need to take the collar off and turn it back on. Vibration will happen or the tone will happen. If it doesn't, that means your collar is either dead or off. Either one, not good when we're trying to use the e-collar for training. All right, so if the collar is on, it vibrates or tones. We go to our next troubleshooting. Is it making contact with the dog's skin? Is the two prongs on here making good contact? E-collar technologies, they do sell additional contact points that you can purchase. All right, so they have titanium ones, they have ones that are hyperallergenic, they actually have ones that are called wings, so dogs are a little bit bigger coat, thicker coat dogs that are having trouble getting a good contact. Those might be an option for you, and those are things that you're going to have to ask the trainer that you're working with is, are we working with the best contact points possible for my dog? All right, so if we have good contact and we have the collar on, we go back into our training routine. If you're seeing the dog shake its head or have a major reaction to the collar, that means we are way too high on the collar, all right? The level on the collar is too high. And when I mean the level, when we are changing levels, it's real simple to change levels on this collar. It's just the spin of the dial on top. So it goes from 0 all the way up to high, which is 100, all right? So you need to make sure that you're working with a professional trainer that knows what they're doing with these e-collars and introducing it to your dog prior to you throwing it on and slapping it away and thinking your dog's just gonna listen because you start correcting them or giving them guidance on the collar. So don't just think you're gonna get the collar in the mail or you're gonna order it online somewhere and you're just gonna be off the races and your dog's gonna definitely understand what this new pressure, this new sensation means and what to do with it. The worst thing that you could do is put this on your dog, release it into a field and start doing recall work with it. I promise you, your dog's gonna probably run the opposite way, especially if it's already in prey drive where it's running after something. Just because you crank this up to 100 is not going to stop that chase from happening, all right? Most likely what's gonna happen is your dog's gonna run further away from you, thinking that pressure, he's trying to escape it, he's gonna run from that pressure. He doesn't understand the collar itself, all right? So slow and steady when it comes to e-collar is a must. Your dog has to understand the basic foundations first, then we overlay the pressure into the training on very low levels in sterile environments first, like a training room, at home, in your living room. If you take the dog out back, that might be too much of a stress-filled, distraction-filled environment for that dog to start introducing a new type of stim or sensation to that dog, where we need them to focus and really start to understand what that weight and make them understand what they are feeling and what to do when they feel this type of pressure, this new sensation, all right? So everyone has their different ways of introducing an e-collar to your dog. But the wrong way is slapping it on in a group class or a group setting or with, you know, high amounts of distractions, and think the dog is going to put one and one together and just listen to you, all right? That's not the answer. You can use these collars as a deterrent to stop certain behaviors, but that's not something that you should just do on your own thinking you know what to do. Again, seeking professional help with your e-collar is going to give you the ultimate success and get you further along in training than if you just tried it yourself. Just because your dog is good on a leash or good on a prong collar or good on a slip collar, good on a harness, doesn't mean you can throw this on and ask for those same behaviors and add pressure thinking your dog is going to understand what that pressure means. So again, seek professional help through a trainer to start introducing your e-collar. All right, so let's talk about how to turn your unit off, all right? So when we're done training for the day, we want to charge our unit at night. I always tell everyone to charge their collar and remote every single night like it was your cell phone. Therefore, when we have to turn this off, it needs to be turned off prior to plugging it in. It's going to be the reverse of how we turned it on. So you're going to turn off the remote and then turn off the receiver. So we're going to turn the L button, hit the L button on the back. We're going to hold it until it says off. Well, technically it says of, not off, but the light will still turn off. And when you turn the dial on top, it will not light up. That tells you your collar, this remote's off. We're going to take the red dot on the remote and pair it to the red dot on your receiver. And then you're going to take the red dot on your remote to kiss it together. Remember we said kiss it together, all right? That's just a term that I use. It's just a brief kiss of the two red dots together until we see that red light again. Again, here it is in real time. So we have the red dot there. We're going to kiss it together real quick until we see that red light appear, and then we're going to let go of the kissing match. All right, so again, one more time. Take the red dot, find the red dot on your receiver, and you're going to kiss them together. This unit was already off, so to kiss them together, turn it off. We're going to kiss them, and it's going to turn red, and your unit's off. All right? Fair enough? All right, so let's go into the mechanics of the collar itself. How do we use the remotes and what does each button mean? All right, so let me turn back on this collar and the remote. So we have three main buttons on the side of our remote here. We have our two S's, one being black, one being red. Then you have your T button by itself on the other side. The T button, like I said previously, was either your tone or your vibrate. You can set this for whatever you want. Again, based on what your trainer is doing with the collar will be based on what you're doing with the tone or vibrate. Most dogs don't care about the vibrate, especially with this unit here. The vibrate is not as powerful on some of the bigger units because it's such a smaller unit. The magnet spins in there to make it vibrate is not as large. So you're going to get a softer vibrate on the collar. But some dogs actually respond to the vibrate more sensitive than they are on the stim. But anyways, all right, let's get into the S buttons. What do the S buttons mean? Just like I told you before, I operate on constant mode. What is constant mode? If I hit this black button and I held it, this stim's going to continue happening until I release that button or 10 seconds times out. So it has a 10-second safety shutoff just in case you have the unit in your pocket and you sit on it and you just start stimming your dog unbeknownst to you. So it's going to have a safety shutoff of 10 seconds. This is a feature that I don't recommend clients using with the hold until they have gone through the training with their trainer, all right? So there are times I will have a 3-second hold on the collar itself, but that's for you to discuss with your trainer. I just like the momentary stim on constant mode rather than momentary stim on momentary mode. So I can still use this as a momentary stim by just hitting the C button or the S button once in C mode, and I still get a momentary stim, all right? I just have better, I think the dogs respond a little bit better to that momentary stim on constant mode than on the momentary mode, all right? All right, now that we confirmed that we are in constant mode, so C will be displayed on your screen on your receiver there or your remote. See the C on the side, and it's flashing 1D. 1D means it's for one dog. It's on one dog. All right. If you have a 2-dog unit, that's different. It'll be flashing what dog you're on. So it's either 1D or 2D. So it's 1 dog or 2 dog. All these units can be paired to a second receiver, but as they come out of the box, they're paired to one receiver unless you get a 2-dog unit. All right, so now that we know that we are in C mode, this is how all these buttons coincide with C mode. All right, constant mode. So the black S is going to stim or shock whatever is on this screen. So if I set this to 10, all right, so it says 10 on my screen. I'll wait for it to, you can see that there. It says 10. When I hit the black S, it's going to shock on 10. If I hit the red S, it's going to jump 5 levels. What do I mean by 5 levels? If I am stimming the dog on 10 with black S, and then I hit the red S, if I'm on 10, if I hit red, what does that put my shock level at if it increases 5 levels? 15, right? So it jumps 5 levels. You can preset this to anything you want. You can jump 30 levels, 40 levels, 50 levels, 1 level, 2 levels. That's going to be based on what you're using a jump for, or how sensitive your dog is or not sensitive your dog is, based on how you're using the application of this collar. If you're using a black S, per se, inside your house, he'll say come, and then we're going to increase that number outside for arousal, so there's more distractions, say, you know, that the dog becomes very distracted and doesn't tune in on a level 10 when I'm outside, he's like on a level 18. I could jump 8 levels, preset 8 levels, so I would jump up to 18 when outside with a hit of the button of red, where I don't have to look down at my collar and reset my reset dial on what number I need to be on. So that's one cool feature of this collar, is you can preset that jump to whatever you want, which is neat. All right. The other cool feature on this remote, so those are your 2 S's on the side, and then again your T is for your tone or your vibrate. On the back side you have a button, the big button that was your on and off button. It's also your light. This was the feature I was talking about that I love. If you hit that L button once, you are going to have a flashing, strobing light on your e-collar with 2 LEDs. If you hit it one more time, it's going to go to solid. All right? And they actually are pretty bright. And again, to turn it off, you just hit the L button again. So one L button hit is going to be strobe. It's going to flash every couple seconds. Hit it one more time, it's going to be constant. The lights are going to be constant on there. And you hit it again to turn it off. What would I use this for? This is a great feature to have on the dog if you have a big backyard and you always lose track of your dog at nighttime. You're like, Fido, where'd you go? This light can help you just kind of watch where the dogs are. We use it all the time at our other property up north. We love this feature because we just had a bunch of lights running around the front yard and we could see where everyone was at. The other good feature that this provides is when you're walking the dog and the dog's heeling next to me and people can actually see me and the dog at nighttime, it lights the ground up around us, so people can identify us, cars, things like that. You should have a light on you regardless, but it still identifies your dog and highlights your dog as well, and not just you holding a flashlight. All right, so that's a really cool feature. I like using it for. Some dogs get kind of weird with the light at first. Don't draw attention to it. Just act like it's nothing. If they start looking down and start being weird with it, don't draw attention to it. Just again, it's just something in the environment they're going to get used to. So don't baby the dog and go, it's okay, look, it's light. That's just going to make them more curious of what the light is and then draw more attention to it and maybe build a superstitious association to this shadow light thing that it's causing around the dog. All right, so again, rely on your trainers to help you walk you through this if you are experiencing that with your dog. That's very rare that happens, but not to say it couldn't happen. All right, is it waterproof? To use the term waterproof, we can't use waterproof. It's water resistant, but do we use ours in the water all the time? Yes. Do we get our remote wet? Yes. Do the dogs swim with it? Yes. But you have to understand when your dog is wet, it's going to create a different level of stim on your dog. So your 10 might become a 20, all right? Or it might create less of a stim for your dog. Every situation is different, and what I encourage you to do is stim yourself where you can feel it, then put your hand in some water, and then stim yourself again. See if that sensation is still the same. Try it on your arm, and then realize that your dog is covered with fur, where your body is not like theirs, so it's going to create a barrier between the stim points, your contact points, and the dog's fur. So just be aware of that. When your dog is wet, that could create a different level of sensation for your dog, both increase or decrease. So keep that in mind when you're training, if your dog is wet, if you're doing bird dog stuff, or you're just doing swimming pool stuff, whatever. When I get the dog out of the water, whether it's salt water or fresh water, I always take the unit off, rinse it off, and make sure it is dry before charging it, all right? The water ports are important to close, all right? So the charging ports on the back, the charging ports on the back are important to make sure they're closed prior to putting it on your dog's neck. Even if you are not swimming with your dog, what I've seen in the past is the dog's hair has been clogged inside the charging port and then it won't let you charge it. So to keep the charging port clean from dust, debris, dog fur, water, close that rubber grommet on there. That way it protects your charging ports on here. All right. That's pretty much it with the intro to this collar. All right.